Meye tuma ama irade Ono na wa fremia sumame.
Every journey usually starts humble. As we delve into the early years of Pastor Steve's life, we discover the seeds of faith that were planted in other nations where he served during his working and ministerial periods. Professor Steve Nyakuti Kwao is a native of Krobo. He was born on January 28, 1958, to the late Madam Grace Doe Anyaweja and late Mr. Michael Kwao at Sominya in the Yulo Krobo district. From childhood, Steve lived with his mother at Asasua in the eastern region. He had his primary education at the Presbyterian Primary School from 1963 to 1967. He continued his primary education at Domanase from 1967 to 1969. Steve obtained his middle school leaving certificate at the Asasua Local Middle School and Banner Hill Boys Boarding School respectively. Reverend Steve finished his ordinary and advanced level at the Tema Secondary School and St. Thomas Aquinas Secondary School respectively from 1975 to 1981. After his advanced level education, he joined the Ghana Meteorological Services as a cadet officer in 1981. Reverend Professor Steve Nyakuti Kwao has over 41 years experience in the field of meteorology. He worked with the Ghana Meteorological Services and later to the Institute of Meteorological Training and Research in Nairobi, Kenya in 1987 and graduated the same year. He got married in Ghana to his beloved Joyce Ekuya Tete, now Mrs. Joyce Nyakuti Kwao. Pastor Steve spent most of his years as a weather forecaster in Ghana, which began in 1988 on radio with the GBC2 and on GBC1. Nurtured by one Mrs. Gertrude Opare Ado and Mr. Jack Mora, among others, in the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Reverend Steve started as a broadcast meteorologist on the national television station GTV and various private radio stations in the country from 1989 till date.
Now we're seeing a lot of clouds over the northeastern parts of Nigeria, and to the western part, this whitish area, connotes a storm that hits part of Burkina Faso and the northern sector of the country 2 hours ago.
Professor Steve Nyakuti Kwao also attended and made presentations at several World Meteorological Organization-sponsored seminars and conferences in many nations. His provision enabled him to travel across various countries, during which he impacted the Church of Pentecost in North and South America. In the year 1990, Professor Steve lectured in aviation meteorology at the Afienya Flying School together with the late Flight Lieutenant J.J. Rawlins. He had a specialized training in radar meteorology in the University of Meteorology, Karachi, Pakistan in 1992. From 1994 to 1997, Reverend Professor Steve Nyakuti Kwao was a facilitator and examiner in meteorology at the Aero Club Pilot School, the Ghana Air Force Pilot School, and the Ghana Airways Training School. During these years, Brother Steve joined what was then known as the 37 Assembly under the leadership of Pastor Asari Bediako retired as a supporting elder in that assembly. Brother Steve, an active and zealous brother, led congregational singing at both district and regional Easter conventions, helping refine many choirs in the city. After a couple of years, he was ordained an elder of the church, where he became the leader of both the Witness Movement and Pensa, a position he held for several years. By virtue of his evangelistic drive, Steve established several assemblies in the then Accra East area under the leadership of the late Apostle F.E. Entry. He was appointed the presiding elder of the new assembly at Pig Farm Down. He was again transferred to Kokomlimle Assembly in the Accra New Town District under the then Pastor David Tete Tekwe. as a supporting elder and eventually made the presiding elder. Elder Steve was called into full-time ministry that year in 1997.
I was called into full-time ministry in 1997, went through the initial training at the required institutions of the church.
The call to ministry coincided with his career on the national television and radio. However, the then President, His Excellency the late Jerry John Rawlings, appealed to the leadership of the Church of Pentecost during a council meeting of the church in 1998 to have him serve the state as a weather forecaster. This arrangement was replicated in the political regime of all sitting presidents till date. In 1999, Reverend Professor Steve Nyakuti Kwao, being one of the pioneers of the church's media ministry, wrote the first recording of Pentecost Hour recorded at the Kaneshi Central during the tenure of Apostle M.K. Intumi. Under the leadership of Pastor Kofi Biafe, Reverend Steve, together with the then Pent media team, now Pent TV, put together documentaries to mark the Makion Missions Week program during the reign of Apostles B.K. Arthur and S.K. Beidou.
For the 26-year period in full-time ministry of the Church of Pentecost. In fact, our first station was at Shalubotwe in the Medina area, but then it was just a Medina district. But we had our district on the adjoining area. First, it was called sub-district, and then it was later on renamed to become Medina North District. In fact, we had a fulfilling ministry. All the officers we worked with at the time were so wonderful, very submissive, very obedient, and they actually cooperated with us even as we did ministry in this area.
Starting with 300 members at the Medina Sub-District. From 1997 to 2003, the membership grew up to 2,300. He is known as an astute teacher, pastor, evangelist, and a prophet, mentoring many into leadership. Reverend Steve was later transferred to the head office of the Church of Pentecost as the manager in charge of special duties and also headed the Medina North District.
At the close of 2003, we were transferred to Alogboshi area. Alogboshi is within the Achimota environment. It's an enclosed community. So when we got there, we had the infrastructural development set up nicely. But then, as the word says, we don't present buildings, to heaven, but human beings, so saints. So we had just around 60, 70 membership. But then very quickly, we set our shows in place and started work. It's an enclosed community, but by God's grace, we met a presbytery that was very receptive, they were very obedient, and they followed us up in almost everything that we did. By the close of the third year, from a membership average attendance between 60 and 70, we were able to raise a membership of very close to 950 on record. After the third year, we were transferred to the Kotobabi Worship Center. So it has been from a worship center to one worship center.
Sophia could take off, and then the Joyce in the 80s. I will. Mama be Church of Pentecost or singing group be our or Tia from Echoes of Pentecost. Into a moana Namia and Adum and a call weather forecast course Kenya into Oba Nature and Obe Worry Joyce. Namia the more our nature Anna. Sena and Busian was until your friend as of him. Into a dinner opening them no assigned by Bumblebee District, na Yati, Kotobabi Worship Center.
When we were transferred to the Kotobabi Worship Center, in fact, the center had a few challenges before. So the assembly was almost going to be scrapped off. So when I was going there, I was told, Steve, we know your ministry. So I went there and I just met a few members.
In the year 2007, he was transferred to the Kutubabi Worship Center of just about 5 membership. By God's grace, the number rose to over 1,000 members during his term in office.
5 years in Animo, and a year Juma. Now, you who want Juma, you must say, or in your mini pastoral qua, and them two, and then come shall be much at the iron man. Now, I doy dear, young far and funny cheap.
So I went there and I just met a few members. In fact, the very Friday when we were being welcomed, we had just around 13 people. And you'll be very happy to, or to surprise you to learn that out of these 13, my mother was there, my father-in-law was there, my mother-in-law was there, then my brothers-in-law were also there. So you'll ask yourself, who actually was the member who welcomed us into the Kutubabi Worship, Center? But then we had the secretary and a few of them, for that night. And then very quickly, in fact, when we got there, it was 2 sessions, English assembly and then the account. But lately, we had to put the administrative structures in place, instilled Pentecostal worship, and then uplifted the spiritual barometer or thermometer of the, the people. And it's still a time of worship, a period of worship, at that worship center, and that allowed the worship center to grow, phenomenally. Initially, they were not worshiping in a completed church building. It was just started with 4 corner walls, and then they had a wooden structure in the middle where they were meeting, and then the account were also meeting underground. Very quickly, within 2 years, we had to raise this building, completed this, to say. So it was a very good experience, with those people over there. Then 2013, 2013, we were transferred, from there. And we had to come back to Ashalboche to worship, with them. Between these years, there were a whole lot of experiences, but it belongs to history.
He also worked under 4 chairmen of the Church of Pentecost, from Prophet M.K. Yeboah to Apostle Eric Nyamiche, the current chairman of the Church of Pentecost. In the year 2017, he was nominated by the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority to assist the Roberts Flight Information Region, comprising Liberia, Sierra Leone and Guinea, to restructure and upgrade their meteorological services. These positive traits have won him great admiration from both past and present presidents of Ghana. Pastor Steve Nyakote was stationed at Born Again Worship Center BAWC in the latter part of 2020, which happens to be his last post where he is retiring. His era as a minister in the BAWC has been a fulfilling and a spirit-filled one. Reverend Steve has such a philanthropic nature who yearns to assist people live a meaningful life. A wise and compassionate man who stands at the pulpit radiating a sense of peace and contentment. The congregation looks up to him with deep respect and admiration. He pours out the word of God in love, deep knowledge, and personal experience with God.
My former pastor Eka Sembi now say ministry a 95% relationship. Na no kwasam pastor Nyakote ema me hu say dia my former pastor Eka no kwepa. Pastor Nyakote ye ma no akwaba eba born again on the 15th of November 2020 na ɔhyɛ ne dwumadi ase ɛwɔ born again. Mehu sɛ yɛn papa number 1 ɔyɛ evangelist ɔsan so yɛ prophet. Papa Nyakote ɛyɛ a whole package all together.
When the ministry mu or you be a ɔwɔ nyamesɛm na ɔte nyamesɛm ase. Na nyamesɛm ka ama yehu sɛ you be a wakɔdar ɛwɔ nyame asɛm mu.
It's been an honor being with Pastor all these years. When Pastor first came, I really didn't take notice of him when he got to church. One thing that drew my attention to him was his very soft and well-mannered way he speaks.
Yen kanko ewo hunhum a papa waboa yen ama yakonkan ewo hunhum femu afi niema bebre ho anyame enam no so ebie so ekire yen ewo Bible adisuemu kane no tode bia niema bia nka ye fa no ndin no papa wa hu se ayeboko ye nyankopon no botai pa esi nani so nti a ọma ne ba Yesu Kristo ebewu ma ene se nipa ebenya enkabom one ne nyankopon san akambom bio papa ma yete ase se yesua Yesu dia ene na enkabom ya ade a ewo se ehia yen kese pa
funny na sorry ba Indiagro this e be as government ejuma atwena ko baby enti sa from Monday to Friday no o make it time so oba so pepe on time the preaching so very fine or preach my to akoma so o preach ya pastor preach ya o pense nsem no ma o me wasem ni mo.
I work with the media team, and so we were used to having loud or very profound speakers in the auditorium. But this is a pastor who came and almost all his tones were so low. So most of the time we had to increase the volume of the sound. And I kept asking myself, which pastor is this? Who is this man that has very soft tone? Even with the amplified version of the microphone, it's still not as loud as we wanted to. So that actually drew my attention to him. And I began taking notice of him.
In holding services, you see that he follows the lead of the Holy Spirit. He doesn't go ahead of God, but instead he follows God. Whatever he does, you see and clearly know that it is from God. Sometimes during the services, you get to know that how the service is going. We should go beyond our written program outline and all that. It should just be a moment of worship.
And sorry, nindum to or pendum to pa. Sapasa preach kakra no de ndum afem. Enti ema wo atwe asam no na wo ben nyame. Enti why so all preaching no de ndum kakra fem. Said the be ya obeti nyame ase, said the be obeti nyame ne, said the be betwe wo ben nyame. Pastor, sadie ne Rebecca no.
Or you be at the time of Indiagro. Despite a Juma and as a duties are who he's always the first person at the church. Both meetings, both church services. Baby or tipa otumbedu as fie asori fie ntem no ne ebomesum ni nyina na eche say he's committed to the things of God. Nti we mame hu say oyobi a nyame ankasa na ofa no and nyame ankasa na odene ayi adwuma for all this work.
One thing that is so peculiar about his ministry is his worship. There was a time I was in a discussion with him, and he spoke to me and told me that, Esther, this is how my life is. My whole life is just about worship. When I go on my knees, all I can do is to worship God, and I barely have anything to even ask God for. But in the course of worship, God himself comes through for me and does tremendous things for me that I never ever think of. And that is something I learned from him.
A successful leader is one who's able to leave or train other leaders to take over from him. Papa he is a worshipper Me, I call him a walking worshipper. Baby, or Nambiano or you're sorry. Now I'm all sorry, no, or the next level. Ne sorry moment when say anytime I will need to touch the throne of grace. He knows worshipper, I've been a worshipper, I'm being. And I bring in no mama or the jump and pensubia. HSA. Indeed, he's a worshipper.
From the beginning of his 3-year stay with us, he has single-handedly assisted the needy in the church financially, from settling rent bills to pocket money for members of the church.
Potentia order the bar born again purposely is about humanity. Say, or we say the members ebe siye amawon or ahofama de bia ordin members so. Onya poanka abibia member bia ebeba sorry dem no oni how
abibia where focus adwuma no ede na bekọ agbochirima mu no oba memesa wo asoro no mu emani nyina obia benya ne duku memma no nyina no presbytery no obama obia shirt na nkafo no so wa wanya shirt no so ubenya frying time odisade nyina no eche abibia papa ebe fe agbochiramba no obaso a the yere mama Josh yakote kwa no so unyaye every loss of day bia no yakọ loss of bia Bible say come do bi oni di ofie the didi aduane no aye loss of bia na mama osof mama de akọ inside yabekọ akọhwe no na wa ka benku ene nkumafo yekoto eyagro into every loss of day bia no presbytery ye ba yenim say sof mama wo ho kwa de yakofia ye problem
de ba kwa ye hu pa sese pon a osofo ebetransi ati obia ne hiade se bia obi a oba for personal program ebia se ohia ehia de bi so sikasemu ana efutu nsemu adwuma nsemu no osofo betran ati obia ne no nsam.
He has this tender heart that naturally draws people in. No matter whom you are, even if you don't want to, he naturally draws people in.
ye buy no for about the third time e worship center all the buyer bebre egu ni boot no oye sure say abibia be member bia ebenya a tuber of yam akofie ni hu bi da e born again worship center na eno to member bia akoma so say papa yi nsira say on bedua born again asafo
papa ehwe say obi enka achi e wo bibie mu papa ma ye pon asori a osofo otenase ose obi a wo hia asam bia no me wobre ema wo emfa hu ni babia ofri a oba asori papa ti botwe ton na so to de bi otimi tina asori da ho eti obi asam sa kokosi se ebeso obi aso obekwa kodru fie no na ebia anwumre be no nsia ani achi kra ade achi nso a obesan akọ adwuma.
I haven't seen one say software one day on 2 or 3 occasions ye pon aso na announce say me de barika boot aba ebeso nti ye pon obi ankoji bi and a pastor who will stand and tell us say ye pon akofie hwan na okofie no say bibia ni fie opon a omra
sɛnea ɔyɛ ɛwɔ born again ha no saa so ɛna ɔde wɔ baabi a ɔbɛkɔ biara no ne baa yɛ mebehu sɛ ɔpɔn asoro a obi sɛ wo a wonim sɛ wokɔ fie a bibi nu a wobɛdi no mansa so wofrɛ no ɔma ɔsɔ so a ɔpɔn abehu mi ɛyɛ ade a ɔde started menim bɛyɛ more than 20 years ago.
His great love for children is such a beautiful sight to behold. His zeal towards the youth and his attempt to get involved in their dance during services with full vigor is exciting to see. He engages the youth personally to learn of their well-being.
Papa efri ni botomu aboa yuti bebre a se bio na kankan na o ma wie school na efie nya a o montimi ento aso papa de nipa bebre akọ ama enede no yen yuti ni bebre enya baby e de omonan esi.
Reverend Steve has really taught us a lot. Appearance, serving God faithfully, using his own life as a testimony. From time to time, every time he meets us, he's more concerned about our education.
Pastor no kote kwa achire me mbebre say oma obi ade a na me be ma muso ana be ma nyama pi so o hia bibia bisa na me sumerade na obe ma nyama ni na kodu.
He actually threw a challenge to the congregation, saying that, is it possible for us to ever go 1 month without ever asking God for anything? No petition, nothing. All we should do is to give thanks and then worship God for 1 month, if we can try it. It was just a challenge he threw. And I took that as a personal challenge. I went through that for 1 month, and oh God, I cannot begin to explain the miracles that went through within that 1 month. And so based on that, I took it upon myself that, even when I have nothing to pray about, or I have too much to even pray about, I will worship. And that's one thing he has taught me. If there is nothing at all I learned in my whole life, or this past 3 years Pastor came, it's been about a heart of worship and thanksgiving.
Pastor Nyakote is a humble man whose humility is evident and can be testified by everyone who has worked with him. His Bible teachings never miss bits of geography and meteorology to drive his point home. He is fond of raising his favorite worship song, You Are Yahweh, with his daughter Lizzie. A highlight of his evangelism drive was moments where 2 hardened drug addicts were enrolled in the military after they were won for Christ by the church to the glory of God. Another soul who was paralyzed for years received total healing through Pastor Steve's healing gift. He operates in the gifts of word of wisdom and knowledge, which have been a tremendous blessing to the church and all people who came under his ministry.
Evangelism or the new Jimby. Na you make sure say bia say akra ye benya no you bia e bia no mo chiro mo a papa nya koje kwa e support in ono ani bottom ska say bia yemfa ento aduane mama na say atare make sure say o may ska the support sankrofo even though crampo otumi yi ni sem the bottom ska e the high e kiosk ni pa person or high kiosk or high kiosk e the support sankrofo no on fan evangelism no India grow because so winning it is so winning so target say so bibia obeba or benya ni bia o make sure say ne here de no ebeye ono Stephen Prof yakoteko ne here de
papa ne ni so ade hu say obetwe akra ama ewurade enti ema ya papa ehwehwe yen go ye thing ma yenini to anamo na neye menije sem kase ne say papa enhwe the way a woti sawokwa ne nchen a na wa ono so edan ne ewo ni mu edi edechiro enti mra ye ben papa no oni yetu anamo eko dome cemetery ho ema yekope akra na mra ye ne papa koye no nia echen so ne say ukohwe mranti a egu cemetery ho dome cemetery na omonum wi enya sam ketwa enso papa tumi ko omo nchen otumi de nsa kra to ebimukom.
He is an evangelist in all totality. Anytime bia no or hwe say akra ebeba Christo nchen into akra no say otiseng he believes say to him or say every souls count into baby akra will be no why ready say he's ready to chase them and bring them to Christ. Now the one ban so hwe say ebebo wesu na say nimpa no omo atim ewo nyame fie into na sempa ka ho adwuma de ondi ho agro ye korealia he's part of us na ukaye ho ojina na oto nwum na gospel say indeed he is a soul winner.
Ye chen so kra ya me enijie kese ne say yɛde mmeranteɛ no bi baa English na baako a ɔwɔ mu yɛfrɛ no Roger. Awurade nam ne dom abasa kɛse so ma sisi a me ne mo kasa yi boy no abɛyɛ sogyani a sisi a ya transfer no kɔ ɔpaase out no yɛde no kɔ Esrem side hɔ no. Eti ɛyɛ m'anigye kɛse paa na papa anhwɛ ɛno nko yɛsan ɛtoa evangelism no so ma yɛkɔnya akra bebree ebi mu ɛwɔ Akan ebi mu so wɔ English na me ɔnhyira papa paa na ɛnyɛ no nko yɛkɔnya ɔkra bi so a na ɔnya stroke tama ɔbae no na nante kora ɛyɛ den true papa empire ma sisia no otumi nante kama ne nsa so ana ontumi ntene mu no ɛno so nyame adom otumi tene ne nsa mu ma sisia me ne mu kase ɔwɔ English assembly yɛde Awurade ase kɛse paa.
His beautiful and supportive wife, Mrs. Joyce Nyakutikwa, stands a great pillar in the ministry and life of her husband. She embraces the broken, the lost, and the unsound. Their home was and is home to many, especially the marginalized. No wonder she has become a true mother for many. Mom J, as affectionately called by both the young and old in the church, has such a decent sense of fashion, radiating grace and elegance worthy of emulation by all women.
Yes, of my Nyakutekwa. Oh, yes, of my mea, Nenimote, or Sritre Obia, or Kayena boom. Yes, of my meaning, Senia, or Yem or Nimpany for Baya Diafa. Only Musadi or Nate youth no so Baya Diafa. Or boy in Bebre, knitted through see up another. Ye mammy tell 2 years for, or the one abra boom as some. It 2 years for Ness, I might come at toy ye mamma who say, send ye tibia, baby if bia. Say yes, young cocoa in quadi, and it so ever home my.
Nanande baako kura ye me fani say they only youthful ni city no. They were only youthful no abano abofo mo ani youthful no ayese obi ni sister. Enti say youthful no pon a omu nyina ne nam no ho Mama Jane ne nickname baako ene Mama Jane. Oka Mama Jane bia na yense of mama na yense o ma ne nsa so kura.
Ne ma emorify nso bɛkɔ ne nkɔfo ma mami ene ne ko ahwɛ wɔn edidi ayi twɛhyɛ wɔn tare twɛ wɔn school fees no enya agorɔ ɔde mami afa sɛ ɔde Joyce de na ngom ne hu no sɛ Dorcas ngom na ɔde kyerɛkyerɛ no Dorcas ngom ne ɔboa nyafo nyanka eyisia ene akunafo ɛyɛ dwuma a wafa no so ɔbɛyɛ na no wakuta ma afi ansa na ɔbɛhyɛ nyamsuma ye bɛfa no ɔsɔfodin kɔ na ɔyɛ a ogu so ɔyɛ
ya na me ne ta ha ka sɛ o mama okɔ ayɛ bɛfew na ɔka kyerɛ me sɛ ɔkɔkora afi kora na onuado no ayɛ den eno de na adwuma no kora bia na aba fam kakra nti obɛsra yɛn na koma mu yɛ yɛn sɔfo maame Nyakote kitwa bia ɔno obɛkyɛ yɛn nyina edi adanse.
One woman who would correct you when you call her House of Mommy, she doesn't even like it when you call her House of Mommy. Once you call her House of Mommy, she says no. You should call her Mom Jane. And that is one interesting thing that has even brought us closer to her, the youth as a whole, especially the women or the ladies, virtuous especially, would testify to this. Mom Jane is so soft, kind.
Yenim so tumfo Nyankopon ode mu eba born again. Obekwaso ahwe mo so. Obekwaso ama na basa edi mani nsem awo mo abrabom. Obekwaso ayem yiye. Se de ma ye born again ma ba yiye no. Tumfo Nyankopon obekwaso ayem yiye sa. Kan se nyame asumdwe ane mo ntena. Nyame onhyira mo.
I remember that she shared an experience with us where she said when she was a youth, despite things were very difficult, she always made it a point to have her constant fellowship with God. As she was growing, though things were tough, she didn't but she had it at the back of her mind that God has something big for her. And today, as she's bringing her ministry to an end, for the youth ministry, she has really taught us that if we follow the ways of God, God is faithful. He reward us diligently.
Oba meku nsusu a de wo be preachi na ọma no te say o sada na oba asofo na say owura ho a oba encourage you ana oba kyerɛkyerɛ oba tuufo enti ni se mfi meku onko no na wanya bibi a odi kofi na ade bi esi wakoma mu bi a ɛyɛ ɔha ɔyɛ su ɛyɛ sɛ wontimi nka ntro bi a na nyam tuo ne nyam asɛm ɔbɛka no ɛba kosi odi enso pepepe enti ni se onfiri asɔde mu ompie no na wanya wansa tiri sof maame ɛyɛ maame mame sof maame ɛyɛ sister mame sof maame yɛ me fan sɛ ɔyɛ mentor pa.
Mom J's godly counsel soothes and clothes the broken with renewed strength to trust in God again. She is a living example that modesty and fashion can win. Her generosity knows no bounds. The various stories from Professor Reverend Steve Nyakote-Kwao and our own experience of her proves that she is a giver of love, spreading joy and unity around. We celebrate the woman who brings everyone together. Reverend Steve and Mrs. Joyce Nyakote-Kwao together have 5 biological children, 2 grandchildren, and over 12 adopted children who are all abounding in grace and beauty.
Reverend Steve Nyakote-Kwao is my biological father. I'm the first girl, and though he's my biological father, he's my spiritual head as well. In fact, he is our spiritual head. I'm talking on behalf of my other siblings. He's our spiritual head. He's a father, he's a teacher, he's a mentor. He's my perfect role model. I sometimes wonder how he's able to combine his corporate work with the work of God. How he's able to juggle everything and do it so effortlessly. It's something that I admire so much about him. And he's been there for us through every phase of our lives, right from infancy up until now. This man has been our pillar, he's been our rock. You put an idea to him and then he's able to help you out, go through the idea together with you prayerfully, socially, everything. He's able to dig out all the information you need and get you through whatever you want to do. And that has been one part about him that amazes me so much. Spiritually too, he's always, unless you don't talk to him about a problem, he will just, encourage you there and then pray with you. No matter how big the issue is, he'll just tell you that no, it is done. Don't think too much about it, and then that's it. He'll be praying with you and everything will be fine. He's been a personal prophet. The things he said to me days before that have come to pass, sometimes I wonder. And sometimes I'll be praying about something and I'll see him in my dream. Giving an answer to whatever I've been praying about, which he doesn't even know. I see him in my dreams a lot, giving me answers to whatever issues I'll be facing. And that is something that marvels me sometimes. So I would say he's a man of many, many, many colors. Put him in any corner and he's able to fit. So this man we are celebrating today is a very phenomenal man. Likewise his wife. They've been very outstanding in their roles of parenting. For we being what we are today, for the world seeing what we are today, God has been number one, but they've also, given their quota.
Your journey in ministry may have ended in the 4 corners of the church, but beyond here, even in your retirement, it is even a greater avenue for you to extend your ministry to the world at large.
Na mpo a yekase retirement nim say it's just a word retirement but obekoso asom ekosi bra irade ebefre no born again worship center yekase papa ne nebusua nyame hye bebre na eji say ne wadua born again no obefi aka no ebefifi e madachi yedi ho adanse
mama why adwuma eso nyame onhyira pa
debia na ebehia no na ne nyumpa da na koma you are Yahweh you are Yahweh makasa no English version but wo ba kan de a ne okapa say kai ne onyame aye na fa na asema no ade biara wo ye nipa kai say Awurade wa ye bia ma. Papa, God bless you and may God grant you more strength and more grace even as you retire in this active service. God bless you.
Bedi asida kese ma Awurade so adom wo mu no mu ho die mu no so nyame mama hodin a efe ahodin a omukọ fie no so obi hia bibi se ohia futu bi betima kọ ne fie na ode adom ye me de Awurade ase o mu nkwa
Otofo Nyankopɔn enhyiraw na ɔhwɛ wo ne maame so na ebusu ni nyina so ɔmɔ apɔmuden ne nkwatintin a ɔde betra sache papa yɛdɔ nyame nka ho
nyame ɔhwɛ mo so mo ne abusua ne nyinaa me Mary de mahwere ade kɛse wɔ mo na yɛwerɛ mfi mo so da nyame ɔnhyira mo bebree.
Thank you so much for availing yourself within this past few years in Born Again, and you have been a blessing to me and the church as a whole. God bless you so much.
My very own, I pray that God through you will raise many nations, and it will be said of you that as you are bringing your ministry to an end, you can boldly say that you have served the Lord, you have fought a good fight, you have kept the faith, you have finished the race.
We are very grateful to them. We wish them the best in this retirement. We pray that the years ahead, they would see the manifestation of God's blessings, and whatever they've labored, whatever they've toiled for our sake, we pray that they'll reap in thousandfolds.
Born again, aye juma confirm nsemi na say me old boy see wakani nyina na me so meka kakra afa yemma no ho se be ba ye na makuo no adwumadie ni nyina akoso kama adwumadie se ye hyiamu biakoye wo ye ntam no eye fe aye se ebusua se ye ba asori makuo a bibia kama te se ebusua ama meni gye pa na ade ba ko nso so a mehu ye ne se executive no so biakoye wo nti ama edwuma no so aye memremra ma yen na debi emre nyina no meni etare mi mekupanyi echi ama edwumadie ni nyina so ye kama ye ma asali ni na assistant wo mu ye very good edwuma no o ma edwuma na ye memremre emeku no so koso kama na wohwe programs aye ni nyina otumu se very educative obi aba onya ne de ne chefa wo mu ne de kɔ na se woni mpanyifo a enti se yi edwuma ema edwuma no ekoso kama eninti embra yaba bedi mfie kakra yi no meni so edwuma a wo Born Again se mekuo no afei nso so efa general members ni nyina ho no kama na wo momom je ba ko pene me obi ni hobby say me hu members na ne meni age saa se na me di kanka ya be ye busua prekope enti no meni gi se ne dey no ye ni mu edi nkra ne aka kire mu se nyame onkoso pa no nhira mu isan se mu ye papa enti no saa so na ye me koi no so for mame obeba no mu so ni mu saa se na mu so mi mu a mu ni me ye adwuma kama kan ni die bia ese bia no mu fa ma no nso na yenkoso a yenye busua yekonso yenko ye busua prekope afei nso so no ni ameka ne se ema no mumma biako yemra yentem ye nipa yi de enya dia ye betietia ye ho nan so na emu no se obi tua wo nan so a entempa na ma wo nua no hu se oh me nua wetia me nan so enti no ama okose na asem de na asem ko mumma biako ye ntina yentem ya si yamfa hwe ama yamfa hwe mpo mama man tokwa bia ngina yemu nya fa biako ye nya nyame adwuma no na ewieye no obema ya mmo sa kwapa no kwafu adwuma ode hye ye nsa no ya ye.
It's been nice, it's been good, even as the word of God says that even as the hills surround Jerusalem, I will surround you and protect you. We saw God's hand mightily pressed on us, and he defended us, he led us, God revealed himself to us, and that's how come we have been very, very successful in our 26-year journey of active ministry of the of the Church of Pentecost. As the eagle hovers around its young, that was the same way, or that has been the same way God, hovered around us and protected us. His presence and power dwelt with us. I quite remember during my ministry in the Ashalbotri area. In fact, I operate mind gifts. That's a word of wisdom, word of knowledge, and discerning of spirits. And you will agree with me that these giftings always go with the gift of power, ministry, and then faith. So our faith, it's only working of miracles, but healing, yes. Anytime we had conventions, people, the dead received their hearing, the blind saw. You'll be having a convention midway, they run back to the grounds to, testify to the Lord. And it was very, very glorious. In fact, we had God actually leading us in that ministry.
Yenu bebre bo adwuma no meyeye sika fam honam fam ahoden fam eto de bia na nye sika nkwa na ye ade nanso ebinu de won ahoden pa won abeti abo adwuma menese bona ge meku edu bebi edu na nam yemu binu so na mi mbodi nyame nemu se mi bodi nkura nyame nemu ma mo nso anyame nemu ti nyame nemu obi biara na mesre nyame se obi biara kuma so ebisade bia no nyame hyeda no nyema mo style bia bi ni do bi bia kuma so se na ya meka ne de bia no to de bia na wo kokwa mu request bi obi sade bia wo de ato nyame enim obi enim nyame hyeda pa na onhwe sa nyama ni nyina no nye ni nyina mamo nyame hyeda pa no nhyira obi biara wo dwuma pa mu ni yan aba betena edi na nkanka se nyamo ne metena aye me fedodo na mekoso abobo na again din sa se me kwa biomu a mesa ababo na again biom na de ba kokora na ye me nwanwane se bra bo na again esi asori dan na me ti ben ho kakra na ewo ha na ahye me se menye aduane nkoma workers no na maye na be de akoma omo sa na da chi na ho no me ba wie medwuma enti bibi bia nyame de beto akoma so bia no bo moden anaye na wonni mo chi na asem eni nti nyame nhira ye nyina na menimsi ye kwenu ye nti atinka boni bia nkanka meku metenu na mo koso mo ye kese se ni anano binada no meka kire mu no financial pillars ni ebe yiye fi menu mu rough na mo so edu bebi ni ebo afori amosori ejina bo afori akese ahyenyame enunyam.
We thank God so much. We thank Jesus Christ. We thank the Holy Spirit for leading us to be able to achieve this faith. And to the presbytery, the executive, we say, thank you. May the good Lord Almighty, bless, protect. May His power and person dwell with you. To the presbytery, we want to say you are so wonderful. In my view, we had the best of relationship, during our ministry. And we want to say a very big thank you. All the committees, we say you have worked very well. Hoping that the new pastor who is coming will also benefit from this nice, kind spirit, good spirit that you have. And to conclude, I would like to read from the book of Philippians, chapter number 4, from verse number 10, or from 4. Let me read from 4. This was an admonition given to the small church in Philippi by the Apostle Paul, maybe from 1 to help us. He said, therefore, my brethren, whom I love and long for, my joy and crown. In fact, if we talk about any crown, if we talk about any joy, then you have been so wonderful. Muni yen eye juma kama. Yedomomonsu mudoyen, and we love you so much. Stand firm, fast in the Lord. So there is no message that I could leave with you than to entreat you to stand firm in the Lord. I entreat you, dear, and I entreat Saintic to agree in the Lord. There was a need to bring together these two ladies, and because there was a small disagreement, between them. So we would like to say that should there be any disagreement between any of you, for the sake of the Lord, just come together, reason together, and patch up all those differences. And he's saying that, yes, I ask you also, true companion, help these women. There are a lot of people in the church who need to be helped. There are a lot of people whose parents are dead. They are orphans. And we need to locate such people. We need to look for them and then care for them, both spiritually and materially, psychologically, and then mentally. We need to go to them. We need to provide all their needs. Then he said, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Our ministry has been a ministry of rejoicing because God had been our backbone. Whatever we went through, just as Paul said, will never be compared with the crown that is ahead of us. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. So whilst the Lord is at hand, please, I will entreat you, even as the Hebrews were admonished, that we throw away every weight that will not allow us to run that good race. Then when I move to the 8, verse number 8, it says, finally, brothers, whatever is true, and yes, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, as you go through your activities, as you relate with each other, whatever is commendable, not anything that any one of you be anxious about. You must be able, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. So I've enumerated about 4 or 5 elements which Paul communicated to the people, the Christian community in Philippi, to think about. These are the things that we need to, to think about. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me. So, number 1, what you have learned. I'm very sure we did some form of ministry for the 2-year period. You might have learned a lot of things from us. What you have received, that is communicatively. We have communicated God's vision, God's purpose to all of us. And whatever you have heard, not very closely, but from afar, from a distance, you might have heard so many good things from the Lord, or seen with your naked eyes. All these things, practice. You have to practice this. So whatever is pure, lovely, this, practice. Whatever you have heard, touched tangibly, and then seen, practice that one also. And the God of peace will be with all of you. By July 30th, our ministry in the Born Again Worship Center would have come to an end. Our retirement service will be held Sunday, 30th July 2023 in the morning. And after close of service, that would have been the end of our ministry in the Born Again Worship Center officially. But then, for administrative purposes, boundaries have been created, but in the Church of God, there may be activities which could draw us back, to fellowship with you again at the Born Again Worship Center. Concluding my ministry, or climaxing my ministry at the Born Again Worship Center, I have so many departments, which helped us, to do all this. And one of them is the presbyteries of the 2 sessions. I've mentioned it earlier on. I want to say a big thank you to all of them. They supported us, they respected us, they cooperated with us. They were very, very consultative in their actions and activities and meetings. They always sought my mind on things that needed to be done. We contributed and everything went on very well. Then my executive. In fact, I wish every pastor of the Church of Pentecost would have such a core of executive. They were very, very respectful, very obedient. Any meeting we called, they attended. If for some reasons they will not be able to attend any meeting, they will give you a proud notice. And we have worked perfectly without any trouble, anyone giving us any anxious moment or something to actually go and brood over and actually regret for having been transferred, to the area. When we got there, because of post-COVID, era, we had to major on the membership. The only thing we were able to do was to give a facelift to the building, and then a few other things were also put in place. We had wanted to acquire a plot of land just adjacent the church, but it never was. But I hope that the next pastor will be assisted by the current executive to be able to do all that is left. Even when Jesus Christ did ministry, he couldn't finish all. So he said, even when I go back, I'll give you the Holy Spirit. I'll send him to come to help you. And you do greater things than I did. So it is my hope that the unfinished work will be completed by the next minister who will be taking up the mantle from me. Then I have the media ministry. It's been so wonderful. They have been very prompt, very committed, dedicated, and their ingenuity to the things of God, so wonderful. We have all of them. Esther being the leader, we have Sapon as the patron or the chairman. Then we have people like Baron. There we have Joshua and the team. And they've managed also to train other younger ones who are taking up or fusing, or they are being integrated into this ministry. When you go to our website, Born Again Worship Center, almost every Sunday service is streamed live. And when you go to the website, you see, most of these things there. The finance department has also cooperated very well. And then we have other leaders. And then finally, when you have a forest, definitely with time, the tall, bigger trees will be falling off and the seedlings will be growing. So we instituted what is known as a shadow leadership. So we integrated potential leaders into the presbytery as a side presbytery. We held meetings with them. Sometimes we exposed them to the things of God and leadership and activities of the church. We even made them run the activities of the church for a month to be able to get accustomed to what they are or what is required of them. And it's been so wonderful.
Maywana womuna omuhie kunu munso mesire nyame se nyame mra mesra mo obi bia metimo nka no na ayefura kese na me ba ayefuru na ene de momje na ayefuru iche se to aso saa afi won a ohia awo nso mesire nyame se omo bi biara eba na onwo ento ne na so wo ware pe esese wonyim na wo ne yembra ne yembe ya outdoor nyame nhira mo wate afi won a ohia sika nso ewrade mfe sika mbra obi biara ohia nyame nsem nhira no nyame nhada pa no beto nhira nsio engumu nyina so na minim se ono nyame na oni hwamo no oni mu hwamo da obekoso ahwemo so amuhu ma sembi nyame nhira mo onkoso no nhira mo na munye nhira bebre na afenso nyame ka kire mo se mu hia Yesu obebi a monka kire ne se momje so da na se pa sanse baba behwe meni mebusua so a asembia amma enti mu hia Yesu a monka kire ne se ye da na se wate nyame hyira mu bebree mom je ba ko pe no size o.
Around this time when we are almost climaxing our activities as an active minister of the Church of Pentecost, to appreciate and show gratitude to people who have actually revamped my ministry, helped me to grow in my ministry. Fortunately, I worked under, 4 or 5 different presidents of the state, and then 4 or 5 chairmen of the Church of Pentecost. Now, if I want to start with the former, even though he is late, the wife is around, the children are around. The children may not know me very well, but the wife and the man who is now dead, I would like to thank the family so much for encouraging me. That's Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rollins. In fact, the reason why I have not been transferred to any of the stations or regions and have labored for God or in the vineyard of the Lord all through in Accra has been the intervention of Rollins. In fact, he felt that I'm capable of doing ministry and at the same time working as a professional, that's a weather forecaster, a meteorologist. So in the council meeting in 1998 in Koforidua, he was there and spoke to the leadership of the church. So I want to say a big thank you to him, his family, then also linked him to our old prophet MK Yeboah. In fact, he was the then chairman of the Church of Pentecost. So he spoke directly to him and they all agreed. And late Anang, Apostle Anang, and all the other group, the executive of the then, has been so wonderful. They encouraged me, in my work. You can just imagine a probationary overseer working in Accra among all these big shots. It's very, very interesting. And they impacted so much into my life. Then J. Kufuor, President J. Kufuor. If J. Kufuor tells me or refers to me as a son, and at one point, anytime I wanted to see him on behalf of the executive, he told me, the castle is so busy, I wanted to have time with you, but then you come and we are all that busy. So just come home. You are a son, come home. So sometimes I drive to former president's home at the Kwashi area there. That's where the house is. And he will receive me as a son. Then the wife, one time we went to the castle and, to introduce the then executive under the chairmanship of Apostle MK into me. And as soon as he saw me, he said, is that not the young man who has been appearing on TV? And this is the young man who even appears on TV, even more than the president. And we were all done with laughter, And since then, he said, your voice is quite different anytime I view you on TV. Now, after shaking hands with me, he said, wow, when I get back home, I'll tell my wife I've managed to shake hands with the young man we have been watching on TV, giving the weather forecast. Then his era or tenure of office, expired. And then we had Professor J.A. Mills. Now, significantly and remarkably, Neil told the executive one time when we went there, Adentina Mohab Abrantian, Mujano na onye nejuma. Now, Obwa Omano, economy no yena India. Obano is capable, he has the ability. Then we had the president Mahama, Dramani Mahama. He was a sector minister, the then minister for communication. So we've known each other for all this while. Actually, during the time of Mahama, he wrote
and requested that the church should not transfer me to the regions. So I even have a copy of the letter now, and said that I'm very useful to the universities in Ghana, lecturing here and there, impacting knowledge to the youth, SHS, the economy, and he mentioned a lot my role in the country, and asked that the executive should not transfer me to the regions because I was very useful in Accra, especially at the airport, because that was when they wanted to revamp the Wa airstrip convert it into an airport. So I was very instrumental in that work. And then also Tamale, I was there. Then Kumasi, I was there. Takrade, briefly, I was there to, give my input. So most of the presidents were actually working very closely with me because of metrology and the information I normally provide. So his era too has expired. And then we had the current president of the state, Akufo-Addo, president, and His Excellency. And it's during his time that we have our current chairman, Eric Nyamiche. So it's been a wonderful journey with all of them. We have Apostle Professor Opoku Onyina, that was during Mahama's time. And we work very closely. My work at the head office as the protocol officer has been so wonderful. Managing the airport, managing individual activities, the head office, council meetings, preparatory work, going to Agogo for prayer camp leaders seminar almost every year, combining with TV, combining with radio, then my district, then the family. It's so wonderful. I've met a wide range of people, and I've learned a lot, from these people. Now, with the Church of Pentecost, it's been divided into administrative centers. And you quite remember I mentioned Ashaliboche. Yes, I worked under so many area heads and the pastorate. They have been so wonderful. The late F.E.N.T., I mentioned his name earlier on. Then we have Ofori Ebua, also, who has been very, very good, very friendly. He's been our friend. He's the apostle I work under, and I felt very good. He understood my role as a meteorologist. He actually all the time allowed me the space to go to the studio to broadcast the weather, which was also beneficial too. So I'm very much appreciative to all this. And then we have Apostle Nobo Achu, Carnation area. By then it was Carnation. We didn't have the Achimota area then. So we worked under him, and he has also been very, very good. We have Prophet Aduba. And then I would like to mention one particular pastor, Joshua Ajabin, even though he's late. In fact, he has been very instrumental in my development as a Christian, marriage. Before I got married, this man pastor was very, very instrumental in that. He was a teacher, a counselor, and we worked very closely at the head office. For those I worked with at the head office, I say, God bless you so much for your support. Those I work with, the pastorate at Ashalboche, God bless you so much. Carnation area, God bless you so much. And then finally, our current area head, that is Apostle David Tete Tekbe. He's a brother, and he's actually impacted our ministry. In fact, we worked under him as a district pastor at Accra, Newtown, before he was transferred to the US for a couple of years. And then now we are working under him as an area head apostle. He has been supportive, his advice, direction as to what must be done at all time, very cooperative. Anytime there is a national issue,
and I chip in an excuse, notes, he always acceded to that and gave me an encouragement. And the wife, Matilda, I am very, very, very grateful to them and the pastorate under the Achimota area. You have been so wonderful. You have been so wonderful. I couldn't have worked successfully if you had not, cooperated with me in this wise. And normally, if I'm not able to attend any of the workers' meetings, you have pastors giving me a summary of what has been discussed or what transpired at the meeting. Pastor Kofi Wiafi, God bless you so much. I love you. I love your wife. I love your family. So as we end our ministry, I pray that you will all grow, love the Lord, work in the vineyards, don't be tired, don't be movable, and do everything to please God and not man. If you do this, success will crown your efforts. Thank you very much on behalf of my family.
May your journey be blessed with joy and endless grace. We stand to celebrate this remarkable people of God whose love, dedication, and strength have made us and many others whole. God bless you, Reverend Professor Steve and Mrs. Joyce Nyakuti-Kwao. May your retirement be restful and fulfilling.
Dawasia and Sadao, Yiwaya and Sadao, Yadawasia and Sadao, Yiwaya and Sadao. Woninya mia uma yeti, woninya mia udi and kobada, Yadawasia and Sadao. Yiwaya and Sadao, Yadawasia and Sadao.